Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Blue Knight 7 of the Blue Knight Cast, here of episode 38. We keep going. We're still going. But mostly today, I just wanted to talk about the announcement that came this morning that tomorrow morning we will be having an Indie World presentation from Nintendo. And I understand it's supposed to be about 15 minutes. And that's not that we've seen indie worlds in different lengths, but 15, that might be a little on the shorter side, but not strange either. And I think the biggest controversy I'm seeing is just the fact that we're getting an indie world, and when are we getting a general direct? I'm not going to rehash all that for you all today. You've already heard my opinion. I think it's coming in April. But maybe we get a Mario anniversary closing announcement on Mario Day in March. But I just wasn't really expecting a general at this point until April, having seen what we've seen. But we do get an indie world, and it wouldn't be the first time you see an indie world serve as a precursor to a general direct. So I guess we're just progress, marching along. And the biggest thing I'll say is I think a lot of people get annoyed at these indie worlds because they want the general, but Indie World Directs usually excite me because I tend to think some of our best third-party gaming in recent years has been indie gaming. I'm not a big AAA person. Don't get me wrong, I love Nintendo's first-party exclusives, and I will download some AAA single-player for Steam. And, I guess you can tell I'm an Overwatch fan and a Warframe fan. But indie games are important to the industry. I mean, Warframe is technically an indie game. There are some indie games that you question whether it deserves the moniker of an indie game. I get that. But I tend to think some of our best third-party gaming in the year 2026 and in the years leading up to 2026 has come from independent studios. CD Projekt Red is technically an indie studio. I mean, seriously. But, of course, I'm talking, you should expect more as smaller fares, smaller budgets, smaller scale. That's what most people really associate with indie, and that's fair. And that's more what I would expect to see at Indie World. But I usually get excited for these because there's usually something in there I want. There may be a lot of things I don't want. I'm not really a cozy gamer. But there is usually something there that gets my attention, whether it's a shadow drop or the last big announcement or something. So I'll be looking forward to this. I should be able to watch it live tomorrow. And we'll see what they have. Now, that being said, I don't really have much in the way of predictions. I don't feel like I'm really in tune lately with what is coming out, or what I would expect to see announced at an indie world for sure. I'm going to give you 4 games I want to see. If I don't know if I should call them predictions because I'll probably just shoot myself in the foot. But I'll give you 4 games I would like to see and tell you why. The first is one that I'm thinking we're most likely to see. So I'll call this my one solid prediction. That maybe we get a release date for Witchbrook. If you've never heard of it, look it up. It's an indie game. I think it's been in development for a real long time. It's been on Steam. Last year they announced it was coming to Switch, if I remember correctly. But it's a sort of a three-quarter perspective. Looked kind of like a RPG, but also sort of a life sim, student sim, from what I remember of it. But what really got my attention was just the beautiful pixel art and this very detailed pixel art world they depicted. It was sort of like a Hogwarts town, but in a very, I'll call it a 16-bit aesthetic. And it's something I wish we saw a little more. I know indie dev is full of pixel art. I get that. I'm a lover of pixel art. It's great to me. But I wish, their energy would be put into fully realizing large pixel art worlds. Like we talk about open worlds. How big could we make a world with pixel assets? This game makes me think about that stuff. I'm not saying it's a big world, but it makes me think about stuff like that, which to me is a good thing. So yeah, Witchbrook release date, that'll be my one big prediction. I'll go with another one that I might put it as my number 2 most likely, but probably I got a feeling this isn't going to happen, but it'd be an opportunity for it to happen, which would be we see Mina the Hauler one more time. That's a game you probably heard me mention by Yacht Club Games, the people behind Shovel Knight. I would like to see this be the day they announce the actual release date for the game. For those who have been following, it was set to release October last year. They delayed it for more polish. At the last State of Play, they appeared there and gave a demo for PS5 that PS5 owners hadn't had a demo of Mina up to that point, though other platforms had. And they announced it would be in spring 2026, which is around the corner. I wonder if they could use this indie world just to say, here's the release date. Since Nintendo, and ever since the Wii U era, I would argue, has been sort of a good haven for indie devs. I do think they could do that here. Would they want to do it at a juncture other than Indie World? Very possible. So I'm not really saying we're guaranteed to see Mina with a release date tomorrow, but I would like to see that. If you haven't followed the game itself too closely, it takes a lot of the good ideas behind Shovel Knight to make a totally different game, as in they combine a lot of the good parts of other retro games to make a unique retro game that kind of stands shoulder to shoulder with the greats of the time it tries to emulate. To me, that's what Shovel Knight did right. That was what it was. Mina the Hauler seems to go more to sample a long history of, say, adventure and RPG like games to create a Game Boy Color paletted game. The visuals remind you of something that could have been on Game Boy Color, though under the hood the game is much, much bigger, deeper. No, the Game Boy Color couldn't run this game the same way that the NES couldn't run Shovel Knight. But it seems to combine elements of, say, top-down Legend of Zelda, action RPGs, Secret of Mana, whatever you want to name, and Castlevania. It seems to combine all of that and maybe a little bit of Bloodborne or Demon Souls. So it looks like something that I think is going to be truly special whenever it does release. So I hope to see a release date for that game tomorrow. Number 3, it's a little out there, but again, I just want to see this announced. Wild Blue, which is a game we know is coming for Steam, in development. A demo just came out on it on Steam. I encourage you to try it. And the game is developed by Chuhai Labs under Giles Goddard, who is the original programmer, one of the original programmers for Star Fox, going back to the Super NES days. And he has basically been developing a spiritual successor to Star Fox, any way you want to look at it. To what I meant to play the demo before now. I'm going to try to play it later today. But it does, watching the footage of it that I've watched, does evoke memories of the original Star Fox, of Star Fox 64. It just looks like an awesome game that I know I will want to play. So I know it's going to Steam. Would love for them to just show up out of the blue with Wild Blue and announce that it's coming to Switch 2. There is no release date on Steam or anything. I don't think they would here. But just to hear, yeah, we're bringing it to Switch or Switch 2. I would love to see that. The fourth game I'll name, and to me this is a bit of a wild one, like, would we see this here? Kind of for the same reason I wonder if we'd see Mina the Hauler. You know, sometimes an indie game's announcement's so big, they don't really put them in the indie world. They put them in the general direct. So I'm not saying we're guaranteed to see this here. Could be elsewhere. But there has been talk and speculation for some time that Expedition 33, last year's Game of the Year from the Game Awards, could be coming to Switch 2, like it's just a matter of time. Yes, I know, that's a game where some people have argued whether or not it earns indie game status. And, you know, I wonder if they would put that in the general direct anyway, just because that's a big deal. Expedition 33 on Switch 2, that would be a big deal. But could this not show up in Indie World as a one more thing? I think it could. Maybe not even the release date, just in development. Or maybe 2026. I don't think you can rule something like that out. And if it did, that would instantly turn this into a memorable indie direct for the ages, just to get Expedition 33. So yeah, I'm not ruling that out, but generally speaking, Steam has a sort of a Next Fest going on right now, demos for upcoming games. A lot of them are indie. Any of those could be fair game, I guess, for this indie world to find out it's coming. And, you know, the thing about indie worlds to me is for every indie world, there's probably 10 times more games that get no coverage or all, or need coverage. On my Twitter channel, I've been posting about a lot of other things lately, but, you know, whenever I come across an indie game that I think truly deserves my attention, even if the news doesn't cover it, I try to retweet, or whatever they call it now, try to draw some attention of my own. A very important, kind of special indie game to me is Chained Echoes. That was the only game it was the first game, I should say, I've ever funded as a Kickstarter backer. That did not let me down. It's one of my all-time favorite games now. Also, I'm currently a Kickstarter backer for Godshard Chronicles. I wouldn't rule out Godshard showing up here either, because it is an indie game going to Switch 1. It just hadn't really got that kind of coverage from Nintendo proper. So, you know, that'd be a pleasant surprise to see that. It's, for those who don't know, it's another RPG, 16 to 32-bit style, depending on how you want to look at it. To me, it's 16. Calls back to Secret of Mana, but also Lufia. No, actually, I take that back. Lunar. The developer is very heavily influenced by Lunar and Mana series, and they're working in detailed animated cutscenes, pretty well realized world, beautiful pixel art in its own right. Um, Very pleasant to see any updates I've been sent by Kickstarter on it, and I look forward to it to be something special. No release date later, though I understand it should be later this year. I'd love to see that one as well. I'll add that as a number 5. But that's the biggest thing on my mind today. As a quick aside, some reviews are making the rounds on, apparently it's Pokopea. Not Pokopea, it's Pokopea, according to the Pokemon Presents. Who knows? But it is scoring ridiculously high with different outlets, hitting about 9 out of 10. It's had some 10 out of 10 reviews. Pretty high on the Metacritic list at this point. So for Switch 2. So I don't know. Just to see the trailers for it, it kind of doesn't interest me at all. It looks like a weird cross of Minecraft, Pokemon, and Animal Crossing to me. But maybe that's, if you're into those types of things, maybe it's perfect. I'll probably take some time to look at some reviews and see if it's worth talking about more in depth later. It's just hard for me to find interest in that game, but I'm definitely going to read some reviews just to see what's going on here. And that's really all I wanted to say for today's episode. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, share, whatever you can do to help. I'm trying to grow this channel. If you want to leave a comment down below, what do you think about this indie world? What do you expect to come? What would you like to see? That's mostly what I've done today. Just told you like 5 games I'd really like to see show up. That would make it good for me. But to me, the real thing about an indie world to me is I'll see a game I've never heard of before, never knew about, and would want to get right away. Peglin was one like that for me. That really hit the mark like that for me. But there's usually some kind of game that pops up that I'm like, yeah, I really want that. And maybe the rest I don't. But there's usually something good. And I just keep talking, don't I? But thank you all for listening. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Have a good day.